Welcome to Hill Country Homilies, weekly homilies from Holy Annunciation Orthodox Church in Liberty Hill, Texas. Holy Annunciation is an old calendar Orthodox church, sharing the faith of the apostles and the love of Christ with all who seek his truth. Now let's listen to this week's homily.
Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory to Christ.
Today is the Sunday after the elevation of the precious and life-giving cross. And on this Sunday, we always read from the Gospel of Mark, and we hear the words of Christ. And when he had called the people unto him with his disciples also, he said unto them, Whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. And this is followed by a somewhat dire warning. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? So in light of that warning, we should probably ask the question, how? How do we take up our cross? I believe that we do this in three different ways. By asceticism, by action, and by joyful hope. Let us talk first about asceticism, because the call to asceticism in this passage is clear and unmistakable. Whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself. The denial of oneself is the seedbed of asceticism. It's where we begin to practice the concepts of denial and self-control that serve as a means to prepare our hearts and our souls to truly receive Christ. We see asceticism in simple practices of the church, such as fasting before communion or obeying the fast during the church year. These are little things that we prepare ourselves in ascetic practice. But true asceticism, the kind of asceticism that involves taking up your cross and following Christ, is a broader asceticism. In fact, it's earlier in this same Gospel of Mark that we hear from Christ himself about how our passions defile us and make us unworthy of our Heavenly Father. He says, out of the heart of men proceed the evil thoughts, fornications, thefts, murders, adulteries, deeds of coveting and wickedness, as well as deceit, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these evil things proceed from within and defile the man. When we take up our cross, we're being called to crucify these very passions, to asceticize by removing these things which tempt us from our daily lives. We're not just talking about the passion of the flesh, the sexual sins, the gluttony, but we're talking about the passions of the mind as well. Envy, evil thoughts, deceitfulness, slandering, slothfulness. All of these things defile who we are, and we're called to fight against those in asceticism. When we take up our cross, we're being called to crucify our ego and our pride. One of my favorite monastic sayings ever, and one that convicts me on almost a daily basis, goes something like this, and I can't remember who the monk was that said it, but the saying is this: the angry man suffers from egoism no matter the cause of his anger. And this simple saying tells us a lot, because what do? We always look to blame external causes for our anger. He was rude to me, or she cut me off in traffic, or he said offensive things about, you can fill in the blank, this group or a politician or my religion. We always look to assign an external cause to our anger. But the only actual cause to our anger is our own pride and our own ego. Because we're angry when we think we're too good to be offended. We're angry because we think we're too good for someone to talk to us that way, or too important to be delayed by someone's inconsiderate driving, or too correct to have our beliefs, whether they're political or otherwise, insulted. This is a pride, an egoism that leads to our anger. There's almost no anger that doesn't arise out of our own pride. So our call to asceticism is not just the mortification of the body, the fasting, the abstaining from sinful things, but also of our mind. Second call is to action, or what I would say is do, don't just say. So I'm going to suggest that taking up the cross and following after Christ involves almost always the obligation to do the difficult thing. I want you to think of Christ being forced at the end of whips of the centurions to carry his own cross for his crucifixion. Now, in the gospel, Christ doesn't ask us to help him carry that cross. He doesn't ask us to encourage him or to cheer him on that journey. What he asks us to do is the most difficult thing, which is to take up our own cross and to carry it following him. Imagine that scene, if you would, if the trek to Golgotha was not a solitary Christ, but each of his followers behind him bearing their own cross on their back. That's the real burden we're called to bear. What does that mean to us today, 2,000 years removed? It means we're called to act. And of course, this is completely consistent with our understanding of salvation as a synergistic undertaking between the Creator and his creation. Taking up your cross is not lamenting the state of homelessness in your community, it's serving those that are homeless. Taking up your cross is not just simply making your opinion known. And that's a huge temptation today, because we live in this sort of social media driven world where we've all been given a platform and a broadcast, if you will, and there's almost this fake virtual world which, if we participate in it, and we think, that we've accomplished something. But once we put the phone down or push away from the keyboard, the poor are still hungry, and the sick still need visitation, the naked need to be clothed, and the widows and the orphans need to be cared for. And it doesn't matter how many times we press like, doesn't matter how many times we share something, they still need action. So we do something. We don't talk about it. We don't just click on a link. We do something. That's what taking up our cross is. And the third thing is that we do this with joy and the hope of the resurrection. Because we should never forget that the cross is not just a symbol of suffering and denial, it's also the source of our hope and our resurrection. When we carry our cross, we cannot be downtrodden or beaten by the demands of our faith. Make no mistake about it, Christians are going to suffer. We will bear the stripes of persecution and rejection by those who are not ready to hear the faith. Look no further than the child martyrs that we commemorate today, the children of St. Sophia, faith, hope, and charity. In their life, we read that when the holy virgins with their mother came before the emperor, everyone present was amazed at their composure, because it seemed that they had been called to a happy festivity, not to torture. We're called to bear our sufferings with hope and with faith, just like hope and faith. We know that this world isn't our home, and our earthly struggles are not our eternal reward. And if carrying our cross is such a burden that we're always downcast and miserable, who in their right mind is going to want to come and see the true church that Christ has left for his people? More importantly, though, if fulfilling our labors on this earth causes us such internal pain and misery, do we really believe the promise of the resurrection? Our actions reflect our thoughts. No burden of this earth can be too great to undertake in return for an eternity with our Father, who loves us and has given us a promise of the good things to come. So we must deny ourselves, taking on the ascetic life, taming our passions and desires. We must be more than talk. We must act to fulfill the great commandment of Christ to love God, to love our neighbor. And we have to do these things not with a sense of weary obligation, but with joyful thanks that we've been given the opportunity to serve. So, brothers and sisters, as we return to this liturgy, let us give thanks to God, who through the sacrifice of his Son on the precious cross has given to us the promise of salvation. Let us bear our crosses voluntarily and with joy, knowing that the kingdom to come is the true reward for those who deny themselves and follow Christ. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, glory to Jesus Christ.
Thanks for listening to Hill Country Homilies. For more information, visit Holy Annunciation Orthodox Church at www.annunciationtx.com. And please join us again next week.